Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another episode in the Sydney Railroad build. If you're watching last week, you'll have seen me install the sub-road bed for the two main lines through the canyon area. For this installment, I'm going to lay all the track in the main staging yard. So without further ado, let's just head out to the workshop and lay some track. Well, it has been a while since I have been out in the workshop. I just got back a couple of days ago from returning my mom to Michigan, so it's now just Zeus and I. This morning I started off by clearing off the main staging yard area. I knew it would become a storage area as soon as I built it, and it was useful while it lasted, but all good things have to come to an end, as now it is time to start track laying in this area. I have cut all the sub-roadbed panels that I need. There are 10 40 inches wide. Well, the bench work is only 39, but by cutting them 40, it gives me some tolerance. I've already gone through once and swept the dust off. I'm going to have to do that again for each piece, just to take care of any dust that may have settled in the last half hour or so. I think I'm going to start at this end, so I need to roll up the plan, make room for it, and then I can get back to work. So don't go away, I'll check in with you again later. Well, I have installed 3 pieces of the foam sheet. I started near this end, but not quite at the end. Instead, I started at the first benchwork joint and worked my way towards the end, and that's where I ended up. That way I end up with less wastage and one less joint. Where I want tight butt joints, I start by overlapping the two with a piece of backing between them and then cut through both layers with one pass of the knife. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on my methods for installing this foam rubber. I went into a lot more detail on how I install these large sheets of foam rubber for the lower level staging, and you can find that in part 2 of this series. The main difference of the installation between the lower level and this level is that there are no raised sides here, so I start by putting the foam rubber slightly over the edge, about ½ an inch or so, and then I just cut it off with a craft knife using the edge of the benchwork as a guide. So now I'm just going to get back to work and install the rest of it, so don't go away, I will check in with you again later. Well, that is all 10 sheets installed. Once I got into a rhythm, it only took a few minutes per sheet. So that's a big area of staging yard. It's 15 tracks, mostly more than 30 feet long. The longest is nearer 40. Still got to do some more foam rubber around the end, and then I will start laying out turnouts in preparation for laying the track. So let me get right back to work and I'll check in with you again later. Well, I've now finished installing the foam roadbed around the back of the workbench, and in this junction I've also prepped all the turnouts, drilled the holes for the switch machines, and cut all the fill-in pieces of track between them. Haven't glued them in place yet. I've got to go inside, get my track laying tools. I don't think I'm going to bother to come out again because it's almost time to go in anyway. So I'm going to call that a day. It's been a short day, but that's okay. I've still had plenty of progress. So stay tuned and I'll see you again tomorrow. Well, it's been a couple of days since I've been out here because I've had my knee up with gout and I haven't been able to walk. But this morning it's a lot better, and my first task for the day is to mark out the yard ladder for this end of the main staging yard. I've had to divert slightly from the printed plan because, as I may have mentioned in a previous video, the Pico curve turnouts are slightly sharper than what they are listed at in my CAD libraries. It's something I really should address and get the libraries corrected, but it's just one of those tasks that I just don't seem to have time for. And before you're thinking it's something I could have done while I was off my knee, No, I couldn't because my computer was down at the same time. It's been one of those weeks. I had my C drive crash and I've had to replace it, but I've been 2 days without a computer. Anyway, this won't take long. I've already made all the adjustments. I'm marking the outside of the ties on the one ladder and the inside on the other, so I can work my way towards the middle. So I'm just going to get back to work, carry on shredding this track pan one track at a time, and I will be right back. Well, I've marked out as much of the curved yard ladders as I need to for now. I've also plotted the curves from the staging yard to workbench junction, and I've laid all the track through that junction. Well, most of it anyway. There's still one more turnout missing here. I wanted to get this curved leg of the Y in and joined up first so that I can climb into this access space without sitting on freshly laid track. Anyway, now I don't have to get in there again. I can lay the track through this area and then workbench junction will be done. So let me get on with that and I will be right back. Before going in for lunch, I finished the track laying through workbench junction and the curved leg of the Y. These pairs of copperhead ties are where the section boundaries are. You see there's one at each exit from the junction. This one's not glued down yet because I haven't got track up to it, but the others are. Anyway, I have recycled the weights and I'm going to work around this corner, get the main yard ladders in for the staging yard, and I'll see how far I get this afternoon. So don't go away, I will check in with you again later. Well, now that I have the curved ladders in, the next step is marking straight parallel lines. So what I've done is made myself a little tool. I have added a spacer to the edge of my drywall square. That saves the need to keep calculating offsets. All I've got to do is mark every multiple of 2.5 inches. It makes the maths a lot easier. So I'm going to mark where the straight tracks line up, and then I'm going to work on getting everything in as far as this benchwork joint here. So let me get back to work and I will check in with you again later. Well, I have now reached the end of the second board for all 7 tracks on the westbound yard. So that is just over 1 box of flex track and 15 turnouts. I started off with nearly half a box. I've got a half box left now, but I also used about 4 or 5 pieces of micro-engineering track on the curves. So close to 30 yards. And as I say, 15 turnouts as well, which takes a lot longer than plain track. Anyway, it's almost 5:30, so I'm not going to start the eastbound yard tonight. I'm going to go in, feed Zeus, and then work inside the rest of the day. So don't go away, I will see you again tomorrow. Well, I was out here for a few hours yesterday afternoon and evening. I didn't bring the camera out, so I didn't make any photographs or clips, but I laid the 8 tracks of the eastbound yard up to as far as the second benchwork joint. I haven't done the engine yard yet. I'm going to leave that for now. There's still 3 more turnouts to go in. They are positioned approximately where they go, but not necessarily exactly. I want to lay the plain track over the next benchwork section before I come back and do the engine yard. The reason being that I'm going to have a whole load of 7-inch offcuts after doing that, and I'll be able to use up some of those in these short spurs. Anyway, let me just recycle the weights and get organized and lay some more track. So don't go away, I'll check in with you again later. Well, that is all 15 tracks extended 1 more board. Took me about 2.5 hours, so an average of about 10 minutes per track. Next task, I think, is to come back and install the engine yard. I'm not going to do that today. It's already 10 o'clock, so I'm going to come back out tomorrow morning and continue. So I'll check in with you again tomorrow. Well, as I mentioned last night, I laid the track on one more section of bench work in the main staging yard, 15 tracks, just over 7 feet long. This morning I'm going to start by getting the engine yard in. There's 6 shorter tracks. I've still got 3 more turnouts to install. They are approximately in the right places right now, but not necessarily exactly right. So let me get busy with that, and I'll check in with you again later. Don't go away. Well, I've now finished the locomotive storage spurs and one more section of parallel tracks. I didn't quite get that far before lunch. I've just come back out, done the last 4 tracks. I did 11 of them prior to lunch, but my stomach was growling and I needed to go in. I departed from the original arrangement somewhat in this area. The reason being that I wanted a slightly wider track spacing at this point to get a leg in. So instead of there being 3 pairs of 2 tracks, there's 3 tracks out of the front, there's 3 tracks in the front, and then 1 by itself, and then 2 in the back. I curved the last track here because going straight would have put a nasty reverse curve in it. Anyway, with this section done, I'm just going to move right into the next one. And this afternoon, I should be able to finish the next 7 feet or 15 tracks. So let me get on with that, and I will be right back. Well, that is the next 7-foot section finished. Altogether today, including the engine yard at the far end, I have installed more than 3 boxes of track, approximately 80 yards. Including the pieces. It's still early, it's only about 4:30, but I don't feel like starting the next section, especially as I've got to start now considering where the turnouts go and then work my way back from there. I'm just going to go in and work inside now for the rest of the day. So I'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, don't go away. Well, yesterday was another one of those days where I had so much crap to take care of that I didn't get out here until after dinner. But I did stay out here until 11 o'clock last night. I laid a whole lot of turnouts, everything for the westbound yard and also the crossovers and the junction. Total of 11 turnouts, and then I started off with some of the plain track, got 3 yards in. I still need a fill-in piece on each of those 3 tracks, and then I will work on the rest of the westbound yard. I haven't even marked out the eastbound yard yet, but I will do that once I've got the westbound yard done. But before I can get into that side, I need a custom curved turnout. I'd forgotten I needed it. That's a straight number 7. I need a custom number 7 with a slight curve on it to fit there. But I'm going to get the rest of this rear yard done first, and then I'm going to go in and build that. So let me get back to work, and I'll check in with you again later. Don't go away. Well, here is that custom turnout that I need for that special case. The area around the frog is soldered up solid, but the lead-in end, so far I've only connected one of the 4 rails. I just joined all the copper ties to one of the stock rails. And now what I'll do is position it where it goes, curve it to shape and weight it down, and then I will solder the other 3 joints while it's curved the way it needs to be, and then I will finish it from there. So let me do that quickly and I will be right back. Well, this morning I laid part of each track in the westbound yard. I left the last piece of track out in every case. The reason being that I want one final opportunity to adjust the spaces at these joints. Sometimes they're not optimal. So I want to let the glue go hard, and then I can slide the rail if necessary and make sure I cut the fill-in piece to exactly the right length. These 3 that are complete, I did those this morning because the penultimate piece on those 3 tracks was done last night, so the glue was already dry. Anyway, I also installed a couple of missing pieces of track in this corner. I have now finished the custom turnout. and I've laid out where all the other turnouts go for the eastbound yard ladder. Well, that is 10 more turnouts accurately positioned. As you can see, I've cut away most of the track plan. What might not be quite so obvious is that I have drawn around all the turnouts with a black Sharpie. Of course, it's black on black, so it's not that obvious, which is probably ideal because although it's a followable line, it's not that obvious on the finished railroad. Next step is to move them all aside and drill the holes for the throw bars. So let me get that done and I will be right back. Well, that is the eastbound yard, now at the same state that the westbound yard was this morning, with one piece of track missing off most routes. And I've also installed all the missing track on the westbound yard. That is now done. Next task is to install the turnouts for the locomotive yard. So let me get on with that and I will be right back. Well, that is the last 6 turnouts installed for this staging yard. I've still got all 6 of the locomotive storage tracks to do, and I've got 5 pieces of track, plain straight track missing in this area. But I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to go in now. It's time to go feed Zeus, and I've got plenty to get on with inside. So don't go away. I'll check in with you again tomorrow. Well, I didn't come back out again tomorrow and finish it. I came back out tonight and finished it instead. I just wanted to get it done. That way I don't have to worry about it tomorrow. I can enjoy my weekend knowing that I've made good progress. So stay tuned and I will check in with you again next week. Well, it is now Monday morning. First thing I did was to remove all the rest of the weights. Before I get into my main task for the day, which is to start on the feeder wires, I want to fill in a few missing pieces of track here and at the other end. Got 1 yard of track at the top of this grade, a couple of small pieces here where the soldering iron is, and there's probably 10 to 15 feet at the other end, at the top of the other lower grade. So I want to get the track in those 2 areas finished, and then I will see about some feeder wires. That's all for this week. Hope you enjoyed the show, found it interesting or useful or both. Next week promises to be another exciting episode and I hope to see you back here for that. So in the meantime, thanks for watching and bye for now.